Okay, this is an example similar to question 1 in chapter 10 of the OTCO workbook about disinfection. I'm not quite sure why problem 1 is problem 1 and why they didn't start with problem 2. But before I do the problem, because the problem is actually very simple, let me explain a few concepts to you about chlorine or sodium hypochlorite, any type of disinfection that uses chlorine to disinfect. And so we have 3 different terms that I want you to remember. The first one is dose. And so dosage, or the dose, is how much chlorine is applied. So how much is applied. The second D word is demand. And the way to think about demand is that's how much is needed for disinfection. So how much is needed to disinfect. And then the final word to think about is going to be residual. And residual basically is how much is left over after disinfecting. So when you're applying chlorine, the goal is to have residual, because if you have a little bit of chlorine left over, that typically is an indication that you applied enough to get disinfection. If you think about it, if you dose wastewater with chlorine and you do not have any residual left, how can you be sure that you added enough? You want to have some residual left over, because that's going to tell you that after all the chlorine has been used up to disinfect the sample, if you have a little bit left over, then you have a pretty good idea that you added enough. So in this question, you are given the residual, 0.4 milligrams per liter, and then you're also given the demand, which is how much chlorine is going to be needed. And so then the question really is, what is the dosage required? And so dosage, for purposes of these questions, the dosage, if you haven't figured it out by now, is going to equal demand plus residual. Demand plus residual is going to be the dosage. So if the demand in this case is 5 milligrams per liter, and the residual left over when you're done is 0.4 milligrams per liter, then you know that the dosage is 5 plus 0.4. The dosage required would have been 5.4 milligrams per liter. And so now that we know the dosage, all we have to do is plug these numbers into our pounds formula. We have flow in MGD. So if we plug all of these numbers into our pounds formula, 4.5 MGD times the dosage, which is 5.4 milligrams per liter, times 8.34. When we multiply that all the way out, that's going to tell us how many pounds we need to apply. So let me go ahead and do the multiplication here real quick. So 4.5 times 5.4 times 8.34, and I come up with 202.7 pounds. So that is the answer. So when you see the question word like this and it asks how many pounds are required, you're calculating the dosage. And remember, dosage equals demand plus residual. And then the question asked how many pounds, so you know that at some point you're going to use the pounds formula. So that is how to do that question.